Hello. Today I have an introductory or beginner's video on how to create your own expert advisor. This is a video for MetaTrader 4. I do have a separate video for MetaTrader 5 and I'll leave a link in the description where you can find that video. This particular expert advisor will use a very simple strategy, a moving average cross. Now I'm not recommending this as a strategy, I'm simply using it to demonstrate the code. And it's a good place to begin because the code itself is simple, and so you get an idea of how the expert advisor works without worrying too much about the strategy. This is an introductory video, and I'll be using the expert advisor that I create here in future videos as well. And in future, when I talk about concepts that I cover in this video, I'll simply refer back to this original video rather than cover them in the future. That will make future videos a little bit shorter and easier to follow. I have the MetaTrader 4 editor open here, and I've got a folder underneath experts that I call Orchard, and I've created a folder inside that already called MA Cross, and this is where I'm going to create the expert advisor. So I'm just going to right click on that MA Cross folder and select new file, and this is an expert advisor, so I just click next, type the name of my expert advisor, which is MA Cross. The copyright here was left from the last time I ran this wizard, as is the link. I'm not going to add any parameters here. I'll put those in code later. I don't need any of these additional events, and I don't need the onTester event. So finish. And now this has created a complete expert advisor. This doesn't do anything yet, but there is nothing wrong with the code here. I can compile this, and I get no errors on the compile. So this is a complete expert advisor that simply doesn't have any code to make anything work. I'm going to just change the formatting here, so I'll pause the video while I do that, but I'm not changing any of the code, I'm just changing the layout a little. Alright, back now, and I've simply changed the layout a little. The initial comment block, I've simply changed all of the double slash comment lines to the slash asterisk and asterisk slash, so that begins a comment and this closes a comment. The property statements are as they were before. The copyright statement here comes from the wizard, as does the link. You saw those in the wizard. The version defaults to 1 when you run the wizard, and property strict here tells the compiler that you're using the new version of the language syntax. There is an old version, it's very old, and I don't recommend you use it anymore. So use property strict, and that simply tells the compiler to compile this under new language rules. The functions here, these event handlers, they were put in by the wizard. OnInit will run when we start the expert advisor. OnDinit runs when we stop the expert advisor, and OnTick happens every time there's a tick event. A tick event is typically a price change or some kind of event on the market that tells you that something has happened that might be of interest in your expert advisor. OnDinit happens when we shut down the expert advisor, or when we close MetaTrader, or if we open the configuration for the running expert advisor and then click OK. So clicking the OK on those inputs will cause the OnDinit to run and then the OnInit again. So OnInit runs the first time we start the expert advisor. If the expert advisor is already on a chart when we open MetaTrader, it will run then. It will also run anytime we change something significant on the chart, like if we change the symbol on the chart, or if we change the time frame, or if we open up that dialog box and just click OK, even if we don't change any of the settings. The OnInit will run again. Now there are settings inside the terminal that will simply cause your expert advisors to stop running if you make certain changes. But if you've got any of those turned off, then this init could run anytime you make a significant change on the charts. Now for this particular strategy, as I described, it is a moving average cross. So what I'll be doing is having two moving averages. There'll be a fast moving average, and I call that fast because it has a shorter number of bars, and therefore it reacts to price changes faster than the other moving average. If the fast moving average crosses above the slow moving average, I'm going to execute a buy trade here. And if the fast moving average crosses below the slow moving average, I'll execute a sell trade. For this example, I'll also have a fixed take profit and stop loss. So there'll be inputs for the take profit and stop loss. I won't be taking anything from the chart to set those. Now, since I have two moving averages, I like to allow the end user to enter the values for those moving averages. So here's the input for just the fast moving average so far. I'll do the slow moving average after this. Input statements begin with input, then the data type of the variable, so this first one is an integer, the name of the variable, and I typically begin my input variables with INP. So INP fast MA bars, the default value is 20, and that semicolon ends the input statement. But for inputs, if I include this comment on the same line as an input, then that comment, fast MA bars, becomes the prompt on the input screen when you run the expert. If you don't include these comments at the end of the input statements, then that variable name becomes the prompt on those dialogues. The next input for a moving average is the moving average method. I'm calling this INP fast MA method. It's an input again, and here I'm using an enum as the data type, and the enum is the enum MA method. I'm defaulting that to an exponential moving average with mode EMA, so that's one of the values of the enum MA method. By using an enum here instead of an int, if I'd entered an int, then on that input box for this expert, the user could enter any integer they like, which may be an invalid value for this moving average method. By using an enum, there will actually be a drop-down displayed, and you'll see that when we run the demonstration. But that drop-down will then restrict the user to only valid values for this enum. And the next input for a moving average is the applied price. And so I've done the same thing here. Input, and this is the enum applied price, which again restricts the values to only valid applied prices, and the default for that is price close. So that's the fast moving average. Now I'll do the same thing for the slow moving average, and the only difference there will be that I'm going to be changing these names so that I have different variables for the fast and slow, and I'll just change this default to 50 for the slow moving average. So now the slow moving average, everything is the same except the variable names to reflect that I've got the slow values, and I've changed the period to 50 bars. And I also said that this expert advisor would have a fixed take profit and stop loss, so I'm going to have inputs for the size of that take profit and the stop loss, and also for the size of the orders that I'm going to enter. So the default order size is going to be 0.01, and that's a double because it's a decimal value. The take profit points and stop loss points are integers, and I'm defaulting those to 20 here. It's quite small, 20 points, but I've set that as the default, and you can always change these in the input when you run the expert advisor. When I'm taking these inputs in points, MetaTrader has a default value for a point, which is typically the last decimal place. So that will depend if you're talking about a currency. Typically there are 5 decimal places. For Japanese yen there would be 3. And so a point for the Japanese yen would be 0.001. Some brokers have 2 decimal places for the Japanese yen and 4 decimal places for other currencies, and other instruments can have anything from 0 decimal places up to 5. So this point will depend on the particular symbol that you are running the expert advisor for, and we'll get the size of a point later in the application. So for now I'm just entering this as number of points, so that 20 for a Japanese yen would be 0.02, or 20 of the 3rd decimal place. And then I just have 2 more inputs for this expert. First is the magic number, and that's an integer. And the magic number is used by expert advisors to attach to trades that the expert places, because then the expert advisor is able to identify the trades that the expert has placed. Now there is no central registry for these magic numbers, so it is possible that 2 experts have been written that just happen to use the same magic number, and that's why I like to allow the end user to also edit this. This is just a default number that I've thrown in here for the example. But with this magic number, your expert advisor is able to scan through all of the trades in your system and determine which have been placed by this expert. Typically, you will match a trade based on the magic number and the symbol. So it's possible to run the same expert on 2 different symbols with the same magic number and still differentiate between those trades. But if you run 2 experts on the same symbol with the same magic number, there's no way for them to know which trade was placed by which expert. And then the final is a trade comment. The trade comment is just attached to each trade. You can interrogate this if you want to have something else to differentiate your trades, but I don't like to rely on that because the trade comment can be modified by the broker and by other external events. And now I'm just going to add 2 global variables. Because I'm entering these take profit points and stop loss points, I want to convert those into a value relevant to this symbol that I'm running for. So I'm going to create two global variables where I'll store the converted values of the take profit and stop loss. And the converted values are going to be doubles, so this is just a double, and there's the take profit and the stop loss variable. And so here in the beginning of the on init, I'm actually going to calculate the values in this take profit and stop loss. And I'm going to do that by calling a custom function. So it's as simple as saying take profit equals points to double and the input take profit points. This points to double is a custom function, and I'll just jump to the bottom of the code now and write that function. So here's the points to double function. It simply takes an integer value, which is number of points, and then the simple calculation, there is a function called point, uppercase P, bracket, bracket. That's an internal function to MetaTrader, and it returns the size of a single point. So if we're talking about Japanese yen on a 3-digit quoted broker, point would return 0.001. So if I multiply the size of one point by the number of points, I simply get a decimal value that is the size of this number of points. So it's a very simple calculation, and that, as I said, is an internal function to MetaTrader. Now I'll just go back and finish the onInit function. Now here I'm making a call to a function called isNewBar. That's also a custom function, but I'm not going to cover it just yet. And I have covered this in detail in the video referenced here, and I'll also put a link in the description for this video to find that earlier video. But the point here, I'm simply initializing the isNewBar so that if you start the Expert Advisor in the middle of a bar, it won't trade until a new bar forms. And that's all the code I need for the onInit function. I don't need any code in onDinit, so I can move straight onto the onTick function. Now for this particular Expert Advisor, I'm going to trade when a new bar forms. As I mentioned here, some people like to look for the first cross of a moving average, but if that happens mid-bar, it's possible for the price to reverse and come back again, and it can reverse and reverse and reverse many times. So by checking mid-bar, it's possible that you'll get this event triggered many times, and it's also possible that by the end of the bar, the moving average will have reversed and there will actually be no cross at all. So I like to wait until that bar has closed, and then the moving average cross of the closed bar will not reverse. So that means that I only need to run this expert once each time there is a new bar. Now the first thing I'm going to do in the onTick is check whether I can actually trade at all. There is a function in MetaTrader called isTradeAllowed, which will simply return a Boolean. If trading is not allowed, there's no point in going any further. And I'm checking that here in the onTick event because it is related to things like, have you set automatic trading allowed at the terminal, which you can turn on and off while the expert is running. So I need to check that each time I come into this function. And next I have the call to this isNewBar. And as I said, for a full description of this, you can refer to this earlier video. But I'll just jump to the bottom of the code now and write that function and give a quick explanation of what it does. Now this is a utility function that I place in a lot of my code, and so it's got some things in here that I don't need for this particular Expert Advisor. But you will see that when I called it, I passed here isNewBar true. That's this bool first call. That allows me to call this many times within a single onTick event, and I just call it with true the first time. That way I know that I'm setting the isNewBar values the first time through. I have a static Boolean for the result. That means that this result can return the same value it had last time if I'm not calling it with this first call. So if it's not the first call, then I simply return the previous result. If it is the first call, then I'm going to go in here and calculate whether this is a new bar. I do that by having a static date time of previous time and a date time of the current time, which I'm just getting from the itime symbol period bar number 0. So that gives me the start time of the currently open bar for the chart symbol and the chart period. I default the result to false. If the previous time is not the same as the current time, then that means I have a new bar, and I simply say previous time equals current time and set the result to true. And if this is not true, then I just fall through to this statement where I'm returning the default value for result, which is false. As I said, I've got a more detailed explanation of how this works in the earlier video. Now I'll just go back to the on tick. Now the reason I check this is trade allowed before I call isNewBar. Once I've called isNewBar for the first time for a bar, it will return false every time after that. So if trading is not allowed briefly at the beginning of the bar for some reason, you've turned off trading for some reason, then if I called isNewBar and then you turn trading back on, the isNewBar is going to be returning false every tick after that until another new bar forms. So that's the reason I've got this isTradeAllowed check before the isNewBar check. So the next thing I need to do, I want to capture the values for those moving averages so that I can tell if the moving average has crossed. That means I need 4 different values. I need, for the bar that's just closed, I need the fast moving average, and I need the fast moving average for the bar before that, and I need the same 2 values for the slow moving average. So here, fast 1 is the fast moving average for bar number 1, and bar number 1 is the bar that's just closed. The current bar is bar 0. I'm using the internal IMA function, passing the chart symbol with symbol bracket bracket, the chart time frame with period bracket bracket, the inputs then, the fast MA bars, 0 for shift. I'm not using shift. If I did need shift, I could always adjust the bar number that I'm requesting the values for, so I never use shift. I always set that to 0. The moving average method, the INP fast MA method, and the applied price. And I want the value for bar number 1, so that's here, bar number 1. Fast 2 is the same thing for bar number 2, and the only difference in that statement is that I'm using number 2 here to get the value for bar number 2. And then for the slow 1 and slow 2, the same function, but here I'm using the slow MA bars method, applied price, but again, bars 1 and 2. Now, of course, it's possible to simply bury these functions in the middle of the rest of the code. I just find it's neater, much easier to read, to capture these values first into variables, and then I use these variables in the rest of the code. And now with those values, all I have to do is make the comparisons to determine if the moving average is crossed. So I'll just look at the fast moving average crossing above the slow first. If fast 1 is greater than slow 1, so the fast moving average is above the slow moving average, but it's only crossed if it wasn't above the slow moving average the bar before. So I'm using this particular syntax, not fast 2 is greater than slow 2. You could equally say fast 2 is less than or equal to slow 2. I just prefer this syntax because that way this is the same statement as this. All I'm saying here is fast is above slow now, and fast was not above slow the bar before. And if that's the case, then I OpenTrade order type buy. Exactly the opposite for the sell trade. If fast is less than slow on bar number 1, and fast is not less than slow on bar number 2. And then I just call an OpenTrade function. This is another custom function that I've created to wrap up the trades, so I'll write that now. So here's my OpenTrade function. I'm getting an enum order type variable, which is type, so that's the order type buy or order type sell. I need to calculate 3 values, the price, the stop loss, and the take profit. So here I have a test. If type is equal to order type buy, then price is ask. Ask is an internal variable in MetaTrader 4, and that gives me the ask price for the current chart symbol. Buy trades are executed at the ask price, and sell trades are executed at the bid price. So this else, if it's not an order type buy, then it must be an order type sell, so that's the else price equals bid. If it's a buy, then the stop loss is price minus the stop loss global variable, and the take profit is price plus the take profit global variable. If it's a sell trade, then it's just the opposite, price plus stop loss and price minus take profit. Then I need to just make sure that these are valid values for placing a trade. They should be, since I'm only using standard values from the chart anyway, but it doesn't hurt to always have this normalized double statement. The normalized double statement will make sure that the value passed in here is in the appropriate number of digits to trade on that chart. So the digits function returns the number of digits of the symbol on the current chart. So if you're talking about Japanese yen, this will return a 3, some other currency it will return 5. It effectively rounds this value. So price after this statement will be rounded to 3 or 5 decimal places for a currency or whatever's appropriate to the symbol you're trading. Same thing for stop loss and take profit. So after these statements, they're all valid values to trade. Then to place the trade, I simply call the order send method. I'm trading the chart symbol, symbol bracket bracket, type, which was passed in as an order type buy or sell, the order size from the input, the price as calculated here. I'm setting 0 for slippage, which means I effectively have unlimited slippage, the stop loss price, the take profit price, the trade comment from the inputs, and the magic number from the inputs. Order send returns a ticket number. If it fails for some reason, it will return a 0 as the ticket number. So I can actually use that like a boolean, and I can simply say if not order send, which means if I get a 0 back from this, I'll execute this statement. And all I'm doing here is printing open failed for, and this should be print format. Print format, open failed for, and then %s is a placeholder for a string, another %s for a string, price equals, %f is a placeholder for a decimal, so price, stop loss, take profit, and then I'll just wrap this around so it's easier to see. I'm passing in symbol, which will go here, enum to string of the type, so that will convert the type, which is effectively an integer, to the string value of the enum. So you'll get either order type buy or order type sell. That will go into this placeholder, and then the price, stop loss, and take profit here. And that completes the OpenTrade function. I'm not doing anything here to attempt to retry the trade if it fails. I'm just reporting that it has failed. And because these trades have a fixed stop loss and take profit, I have no exit for these trades other than the price hitting the stop loss and the take profit. Also, there is nothing in here to guard against placing 2 trades at the same time, 2 in the same direction. So if I get a cross in the upward direction and then the price crosses back again and crosses up again before hitting the take profit or the stop loss, I can open another trade there. This is just an example expert advisor. Those are the kinds of things you would build in depending on the strategy you're running. So that should be everything. I have finished the on tick event. The open trades are the last statements in here. Let me just see if I've made any mistakes. I'll compile that. No errors there. So I'll jump onto the chart now and run this so that you can see it execute a buy and a sell trade. Now I have MetaTrader 4 open. Before I run the strategy tester, I'll just drag this onto a live chart. This is the MA Cross Expert Advisor we created. And here in the inputs, you can see what I was talking about. The fast MA bars, these are the comments that were placed at the end of the input lines. The fast MA bars, if I double click that, that's a 20, that was the integer input. The fast MA method though, this is one where I use the enum, and you can see now I have a drop down for that, and I can only select the values for that enum. The same for the fast MA applied price. And then of course the slow MA method and the slow price are the same. Just cancel that and go to the strategy tester. Here I have made one small change to the inputs. If I scroll down, I've changed the take profit and the stop loss to 50 because 20 is very close, and when I'm trying to run this, it was closing trades too quickly. So I've started the strategy tester now. I've added the 2 moving averages. The white dotted line is the fast moving average and the blue is the slow moving average. I'll just let this run and I'll speed up the video until we get the first cross where we can show a trade happening. So there, I was a little slow in stopping this, but at this point where we crossed, put the line there, where the moving average is crossed, you can see there I've opened a buy trade, has a take profit here, a stop loss there, so that's the standard take profit stop loss. I'll just let that continue, it'll close that trade at some point, and I'll let it run until we create a sell trade. So here again, I've got a sell trade created because the fast moving average is crossed below the slow. There's a sell trade here with a take profit there and a stop loss there. So that's the default expert running. Remember, this is not a good strategy. It is just there because it's a good way to write a beginner expert advisor and to learn how to write these. I will be building on this expert advisor in the future and adding more features to show how you can implement those on your own expert advisor. Hope this has been useful to you. If it has, please click the like button, and if you want to see more of our videos, click subscribe and then click the bell icon to be notified when we release new videos. Until next time, thank you for watching.